Let's start with the don'ts. Windowless ballrooms has to be top on my list. It doesn't matter what city you're in if your experience is taxi to hotel to windowless ballroom.
In this episode of Investors and Operators, I am chatting with a repeat guest, Mr. Brian Bank, who is in the strategy and client relations function of the investment funds group at Kirkland.
That works.
Okay.
That works.
And we are talking all things AGM because 'tis the season. And Mr. Bank, I think you've attended a few of these.
Yeah, probably over the course of my career, about 350 or so.
Okay, I think we have some good data points.
Seen a lot over the years.
Well, let's dive straight into it. So let's start off with, why do LPs attend the AGM?
Attending in person, first and foremost, I think helps them justify their decision to commit to the fund. So if it's a new relationship, they want to confirm that they made the right decision. Annual meetings provide the opportunity to meet the members of the team at the GP, meet some of their portfolio company representatives, the management teams, also meet some of the other LPs. I think that is a piece of the puzzle that many GPs miss, which is annual meetings are a great opportunity for LPs to interact with other LPs. So it's a really important opportunity for a lot of LPs to, get out of their home offices and learn a lot about the industry, the GP, and each other.
Can you talk about how well the LPs, how well the GPs do at kind of coordinating the LP interactions, as opposed to like, hey, throw you in a room, hope you interact? Like, what have you found are some of the most effective ways that GPs get the LPs connected, whether it's sending the list before or getting people to introduce each other? Like, how can they do a great job of curating LPs networking?
It's a great question. I mean, I can't think of a situation where LPs or GPs have sent lists of LPs in attendance in advance of an annual meeting. That said, most GPs build in frequent breaks, at least two breaks per session, meant for networking between LPs as well as LP to GP. Clearly, most of these events have some kind of dinner or reception, either the night before, the night after, that provides that opportunity from a networking perspective, from a meeting time perspective. But I think it's the deeper events and the more unique experiences that really do a great job for LPs to bond with each other as well as with the GP. For example, if it's if the GP takes you on a site tour of, a tour of a plant, a factory. I've been on farm tours for a GP that focused on food production. We've been overseas on annual meeting trips, and these are opportunities where you really spend a lot of time with the other LPs, with the GPs. Some LPs enjoy going and doing activities together. In fact, on one of these trips, I went to Machu Picchu with another LP. We both knew we were going to be there. When's the next time I'm going to be in Peru? So he and I got together and planned a side trip after the annual meeting to go spend time together. Similarly, it doesn't have to be overseas, doesn't have to be in Machu Picchu. I know an annual meeting that hosts workouts, yoga sessions, hikes. I mean, if you're in a city or in a location that tourists visit regularly, it's not a bad idea to take your LPs out and show them the town. I'm in San Francisco. I've been at annual meetings where they go on tours of Chinatown. I have a friend who runs a GP based in the Rockies, and they've taken their LPs on hikes in the afternoon. A lot of opportunities. And again, this is great to bond with the LPs and the GPs, bonding between LPs, and frankly, being a more memorable annual meeting. And, as I'm sure we'll talk about, memorability should be front and center in every GP's mind at this point.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about memorability and maybe kind of starting off with the venue.
Yeah.
What are some do's and don'ts for the venue?
Let's start with the don'ts. Windowless ballrooms has to be top on my list. So, it doesn't matter what city you're in if your experience is taxi to hotel to windowless ballroom. So at minimum, have windows. At minimum, have a view. So, LPs aren't falling asleep during your meeting. From a room setup perspective, I still don't understand why they use circular tables as opposed to classroom style tables. I mean, circular tables by default means half the room's going to either not be able to access their desk, or they're going to have to turn their chairs around and be uncomfortable. So, have a classroom style format with power cords available so people can plug in. What are some great do's from a venue perspective? Get out of the ballroom, get out of the hotel, mix things up. Don't necessarily have your meeting in the same hotel or even in the same city that you've had it in the past. If it's, again, possible to host an annual meeting at a portfolio company location, that's fantastic. If you're a real estate firm that has multiple properties in the same city, go to that city, take them on a bus tour, go from property to property. Again, I've been to over 300 annual meetings. The ones that stand out to me are the ones where I got out of a hotel. I visited properties. It helps me remember that real estate manager versus the other 30 that I was committed to. The same with regards to energy projects or energy GPs. If you can take them to an oil rig, if you can take them on site, if you can take them to a power facility, that's what's memorable. And again, it gives the LPs the opportunity to sit in a bus, to travel to somewhere unique with each other, with the GPs, and compare notes. Sporting venues is a great place. Again, it's something that's unique. Museums, unique. If you're in New York and you can have an event at a famous museum, Boston, the Kennedy Library. I had a client who hosted here at the Chase Center in San Francisco as well as at Levi's Stadium. Again, much more enjoyable, much more differentiated. Give them a tour of the locker room. If there are Super Bowl or, NBA trophies on display, let them see the trophies. I mean, it's something that, again, makes you remember that annual meeting as opposed to the other 20 that you're going to go visit during, annual meeting season that are very similar.
Yeah, I think it's interesting on how important it is to get people to meet the team, meet the Portco execs, meet the other LPs. Like, it's focused on meeting people and less about let's go through 50 pages on a PowerPoint that, you've seen. I'm going to send it to you afterwards. And it's really, what can you do there that cannot be done on a Zoom meeting or sent through email?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think most GPs, most annual meetings are still going to go through 40, 50 slides. I think that's something that we're just going to have to assume will happen. So, again, it's what else can you gain at this meeting? And, bringing CEOs or, senior members of management to present, I think that's valuable. I think that, if you've got too many portfolio companies that you don't want to just bombard your audience with, one Portco after another, you could put together a panel of 3 or 4 Portco CEOs or management teams and compare notes, whether it's on tariffs, whether it's on international expansion, whether it's on the current state of the economy, whether it's on, different types of financings, credit, you name it. You can come up with a good, panel topic, and, you're shooting 2 birds or multiple birds with 1 stone. Frankly, you've got multiple CEOs, you've got one of your members of the investment team interviewing, and, again, gives the LP the opportunity to feel good about the knowledge, the quality of the investments, the professionalism of the team.
As you think about planning, it kind of makes me, what are some of the most important questions to ask when you are looking at the agenda and looking at the entire event? And I think one of those key questions is, what are they going to remember 5 years from now?
I mean, I think the reality is that GPs are very similar. And, again, there's obviously differences on size, on strategy, on investments. But, from a returns profile perspective, there's a pretty narrow band when you're looking at the quartiles. It's not just a check the box requirement from the limited partnership agreement. This is an opportunity to promote your firm. It's an opportunity to promote yourselves. It's an opportunity to connect to your investors. And it's an opportunity to separate yourself from everyone else in your same industry and sector. So, again, venue is important. I think the overall experience, what kind of breaks, what kind of speakers, what kind of activities, theoretically what kind of food and swag are important as well. Again, everything's a promotional opportunity.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you talk more about like the structure of the day and the agenda, even
yeah.
starting with the day before? What do you like and dislike? It's like, hey, I know it depends on the firm size,
Right.
but let's just say it's an emerging manager, fund two, fund three,
Mhm.
or let's just say emerging manager. What
Yeah.
does that look like from how many days, how long? What does the agenda look like?
I mean, for an emerging manager for a funds, up to fund three, let's say, I don't know the agenda needs to be longer than a welcome reception or dinner the night before, like a rehearsal dinner for people coming in from out of town. And then a session the next day through lunch, if not a little bit longer. One of the things that I dislike immensely is the sense that a GP is rushing or trying to squeeze too much information in. If I'm an LP and I'm flying to a different city, give me the benefit of a full day session. Don't make me think about what time my flight home is that night. Don't make me feel like if I'm racing for an airport because the agenda shows the meeting ending at 1 and I think I can make a 2:30 flight, that I'm constantly looking at my apps to see if I'm on time, if I can get to the airport. Plan it appropriately. So, the night before, reception, drinks, maybe dinner, hopefully seated, give people the opportunity to talk to each other, to network, make sure that you've spread your team around the room. I'm never a fan of seeing GPs with, a table reserved for their staff and for their team. Let them mix. This is all, again, an opportunity for them to get to know the LPs. Individual LPs will move over the years and they'll be at different shops. And these relationships hopefully will carry from shop to shop, from LP to LP. Um, the next morning, obviously, you're going to want to start early-ish, but don't be painfully early, I think. I mean, I think, sitting down at 8:30, 9 o'clock is fine. But again, sessions throughout the morning with breaks every couple of hours, 15-minute, 20-minute break every 2 hours. Give people the chance to grab coffee, to walk, to stretch their legs. I do like having external speakers at annual meetings. Some people don't. I think that it's a great break. If we talk about speakers, what kind of speakers are valuable? You can have leaders from other sectors talking about, what they have brought to their industry, whether they're, retired generals, members of a cabinet. I've seen, I've seen Everest guides. I've seen conductors, the Boston Philharmonic or the Boston Pops conductor talking about leading an orchestra of 75 global leaders in their, profession, and how you can maximize their efficiency and their outcome. Well-known authors are fantastic.
Yeah. Just
You
something
know,
else that it doesn't have to be related to the portfolio
that's
or
right.
a thesis. It has to be
That's right.
something that's interesting and that also is memorable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger, of course, is if you have a really fun, memorable annual meeting, you've set a bar for the next one too, right? So,
Well, that's a good problem to have.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than having a great speaker or a great venue or a great event and then going back to the windowless ballroom with, a computer science professor talking about their thesis. The other point that's worth considering, and again, I think this applies to a lot of different components of an annual meeting, is once you get to a certain size, there's also, an expectation from a spend perspective, right? So if you're a GP managing multi-billions of dollars of assets, LPs are being charged a certain management fee. You know, it's expected that they spend a certain amount and that there's a certain level of quality and talent with regards to the speaker, with the swag, etc.
Yeah, well, let's dive into swag. So,
Okay.
I mean, this is critical, absolutely critical on the budget. Um, where do we want to start? Vests.
I think everyone who's been in this industry for a reasonable amount of time has more vests and more bags than they care to admit. I think the reality is that anything you wear can be nice, particularly if the logo is small or, out of sight, behind your neck, on a sleeve, things of that nature. You don't want it to be too bright, too bold, too pronounced. If it's a hat, small logo, I think the reality is that, yeah, people like pullovers, people like nice brands, people like, good quality product. But again, they don't want it to be a walking billboard.
Yeah.
So for someone else, I think they also want to make sure that, you've got the right sizing. I mean, I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've used some product as, a measuring stick for my weight loss, right? I got the XL that never fit, and it's a small brand, or it's a small size, and I'm never going to wear it,
Yeah.
or use it as a diet tool for myself.
What are some swag that has kind of really stuck around that's always on your desk that's been there
Yeah.
for like 10 years?
I think little fun tchotchkes. I've got some rubber ducks from a portfolio company at a GP. I think it's appropriate if it's tied to the GP, right? So, if you're a consumer packaged goods company or a GP, have product from your portfolio companies. I recall a client that, or a GP that I was on the LPAC of, that did a chocolate covered pretzel brand, very well known. They had a lot of product. They had, caramel covered nuts. They always had that. They had, you know, disposable grocery or reusable grocery bags. So they gave those out. So, anything that's tangible that you can take home, and you remember that GP is associated with that brand. I think things like, coffee cups, Yeti mugs, what's the brand that all the kids love these days? The Stanleys. I
Yep.
think things like that, you can never have enough. Different sizes, different shapes. Again, it's something that's going to be in your hand, on your desk, etc. But again, you start getting into the challenge of travel also. Who can pack it in their
Yeah.
suitcases heading home? Again, that's one of the
Yep.
big no-nos, is giving a gift that you can't take through security. I've been offered big, beautiful snow globes. You can't take that. I've been offered, logoed pocket knives and other, tools. Clearly you can't take that. So if that's a
We had
gift,
I remember at one of our veteran events, we uh Eli Crane, who's now a member of Congress, former SEAL, he has a company called Bottle Breacher, and it was on Shark Tank. And at our event, he brought these huge, like 50 caliber bullets, but they were bottle
right?
openers, and we gave them to like 50 people. I can imagine that going through TSA, like, yeah, I need to look at this.
Totally. No, I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, so in situations like that, you better be prepared to take people's addresses and just FedEx it. So that adds another $25 per person on a budget from a FedEx perspective. I mean, I think while we're on the
That's actually really important right there, because
Mhm.
so often either the guests bring it home to their and they throw away half the stuff
Right.
in their hotel, or it's left with the admin team at the GP and they're like, okay, what I got, but they don't plan ahead of like, hey, we'll ship it for you, just drop it back off, like give us your address. And I think that's part of the logistics and the planning.
Yeah. I
Um
mean, I think there's a lot of planning and logistics that can go into swag even, right? So, I mean, I've been in scenarios, or I've seen situations where the GP asks directly, A, can you accept swag? B, do you want the swag? Or C, would you rather we donate to a charity? Here are the three choices,
hmm.
as opposed to giving you another vest bag with a, value of $45 or $50. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the other,
I have not seen or heard about that last option. Like, hey, in lieu of giving you a
yes.
vest you don't need or a tote bag, we'll donate $250 per person to a charity. Pick one of the three on this menu.
Yeah, I think that's a great option. I think it hits a lot of different buttons for people. Um, and then, the last point, which I think also crosses a lot of different questions here, is the implication and the feasibility with public investors, right? So public investors, the big pensions and the states and so forth, do have limitations on what they can receive, what they can spend in a daily basis from a per diem, what hotels they can stay at, what events they can go to, even if it's, a private box at a sporting event. What you don't want to do is create a multi-class system. You don't want a caste system among your LPs. So if I'm, a CalPERS, private equity professional, I don't want to feel second class because I can't stay at the same hotel as the annual meeting. I don't want to feel second class because I can't accept a certain gift, or I need to sneak into the suite as opposed to be given a ticket.
Mm.
Uh, I think those are all factors that need to be just thought about as you're planning your annual meeting. And one thing that I think IR people probably don't do enough, or founders don't do enough, is actually ask, right? Reach out to your LPAC, reach out to some of your investors who fall into that category and say, look, you know what? We're planning our meeting. Would this be okay from your perspective? How would you think about this? Leveraged by my GPs and my seat to reach out to LPs on a pretty regular basis, on a no names basis. But, again, LPs want to be a resource. The LPAC shouldn't just be a check the box exercise. These should be your friends. They should be people that, you get information from, and they appreciate that. LPs appreciate it a lot. Throughout the process.
If you had to summarize, like, what is the biggest mistake for AGM planning?
It's a great question. What I would say is assuming your LPs know who you are and know what your portfolio is. There are multiple teams within an LP entity who do diligence, who do OD, operational due diligence, deal due diligence, make the decision, champion the fund. In many situations, that's not the same person who attends the annual meeting. Also, it may not be the case that the person who attended the 2024 or 2025 annual meeting will be in attendance at the 24, 25, or 26 annual meeting. So when a GP is presenting and says, as you remember from last year, maybe half the room doesn't remember from last year because they weren't there. When there's a handoff between speakers, I finish my section, I'm moving on to you. Be sure to introduce your colleague by name, because sometimes half the audience doesn't know who that person is. Now I'd like to hand it off to Brian Bank, who's been part of the team for 10 years. Or, Jordan leads our technology innovation group. Make that introduction. The other reason is that, frankly, many of these institutional LPs have 40 commitments or 40 relationships that they're responsible for overseeing. And so again, they're, a mile wide and a couple of inches deep with regards to knowledge. So assume that they don't know as much as you think they do. And, I don't want to say dummy everything down, but, keep that in the back of your mind as you're putting the script together. I think that it's really important to be consistent. I think it's really important, though, to recognize that, a lot of your LPs are not familiar with strategy team, portfolio companies, etc.
And in the strategy team, for example, like maybe you're fund one and you've made a huge investment in the head of strategy. Like, why did we make that? By the way, this is not very common in fund one or fund two, but here's why we're doing it. It's more than just, we don't want to pay LEK $300,000 to do, their DD work. It goes so much deeper than that. And then, by the way, here's a person. We have to remind them who that team is, what the philosophy, the strategy, and then the portfolio. Because to your point, you're attending how many in a given year? 20 plus?
That's right. And look, I mean, the other side of it again is we all know there's been enough, written and verbal discussion of the challenges of fundraising over the last 2 years. This is the best opportunity for you to tell the story the way you want to tell it to an audience that's already receptive. People spend, thousands and thousands of dollars going to conferences around the world to be in a room with prospects and with LPs. This is your opportunity. You've got your LPs there. Tell them
that is so important, because if you're thinking about, like, if it's a fund one and they're thinking about two, it's not just what happened last year and where we're at today, but is our messaging, including the people that are presenting, the structure of this, is this messaging fun too?
Yes.
Everything that we do, because it feels like, the co-founder show, that's not fun two or three.
Right.
But if you're showing, hey, this person has been with us a year, they're a principal level, and they're heavy, like, this feels institutional. If you're showing a CEO who's been there for more than, 60 days and they've been with us, or they're a repeat, like, let's highlight them. That it's really interesting to project who you want to be, and you are selling to LPs for that next fund, not just why they made the last investment.
That's right. And the other point that I think is worth noting is that I'm asked pretty frequently whether we should or should not invite prospects. Again, I think it's a great opportunity. I think people do have a paranoia with regards to confidentiality of information of, maybe, someone in the room hearing information or company projections or results that, the GP is not necessarily comfortable with. The reality, at least from my perspective, is that if you're senior enough in your career, if you're in a decision-making role, you understand the importance of confidentiality. You're not where you're sitting as the director of private equity as an LP or the associate director of private equity if you violated that confidentiality issue. When I get sent, confidentiality requests, I kind of smirk because, again, clearly I've been in this industry a long time, based the amount of gray in my beard, that I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting if I ever breached that, that trust.
Yep. And maybe kind of, bring it home. One of the things that you said, which really stuck with me as we're helping our clients plan AGMs, is like, you have to be differentiated. And that is one of the macro concepts that has to go throughout the agenda, the speakers, the materials, the location. Is this going to be different than not just last year, but all the other AGMs that they're attending? And truly asking yourself that with the planning team of like, what specifically and collectively is going to be different and memorable about this?
You're absolutely right. I think one of the big, again, back to I hate to use the word common mistakes, but, something that we see a lot is the same, right? The same team that puts the AGM together, the same templates, the same format, the same presentation. It's from my perspective, I like bringing in external resources. When you consider most IR or event planning professionals at private equity firms, unfortunately or fortunately, most of them are homegrown, right? They've just been promoted from junior seat to mid-level seat to senior seat. And, again, many of them are incredibly good at what they do, but they've not seen other events. They've not benefited from different experiences. Again, I told you the story earlier with regards to my having a coffee at an annual meeting, 30 minutes in when the GP came out and said, this meeting's terrible. What can we do? And I said, just change the venue. And his immediate reaction was, why would we change venue? We've done it here every year. And literally it was like, bingo, that's exactly why. And, it's often the case that, the challenge is you need to lock in your venue multiple years in advance, and you're often stuck contractually. But I don't advise clients to sign a contract beyond 2 years. See how it goes. And if it's good, then potentially, move on to another one or, renew it. But
yeah,
think creatively. Again, think about the LP who hits 30 annual meetings each spring and each fall, or 30 a year. They are so redundant. The food, oh my God. We really haven't talked about that. Steak, fish, or a piece of chicken with the wing bones sticking up. It's all the same.
It's interesting. Even back on the idea of location, I was just looking at our survey results because we just sent this out to a whole bunch of GPs, and 60% have it at the hotel conference center. Not a single person replied saying they do it at a Portco.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when Liz Weinberg was on here, she was talking about how, like, literally 10 plus years ago, she had a wood chip from a Portco visit. Like,
yeah,
over 10 years ago.
That's right.
Still remembers that. And to your point,
and that's what you remember. Look, first of all, anything Liz says, I would put on neon lights as being correct. She's the best. But again, I mean, when you think of a number of events that people attend, what makes one stand out versus the other? Being able to pick up a wood chip, being able to, I mean, I once was in uh, a simulator of an oil drilling rig as part of an annual meeting. I mean, these are things that you absolutely remember, and it's so unique and different than listening to 10 Portcos talk about, why their SaaS solution is different from the one that finished 5 minutes earlier.
I love it. I think we're gonna have some more episodes in the future.
Looking forward to it. Anyone else wants to talk about it, feel free to reach out.
There we go. All right, great to see you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right.